Hi, this is week six rhythm tutorial. We're going to talk about, excuse me, more of the issues that we talked about in the lecture, but with some more detail and some examples and some more discussion around the ideas of design and the design of time and the design of rhythm and the design as applied to the way in which we conceive and perceive what it is that we do when we make rhythm within a piece. But moreover, linking back to the lecture idea, which was about space, place, and time. If you think about that, every place has a rhythm. Place has a rhythm wherever you are. There's multiple rhythms that are perceivable around you. Spatial qualities have rhythms, and of course, time is the frame in which you can actually position a rhythm. So, if we were talking about a rhythm that took place over 1,000 years, some kind of rhythmic flow of cultures, or of the way in which migration happened, or any kind of measurement of the way in which things moved. In a similar way, I guess you can talk about resonance. We all resonate. We are a resonating body, live body. Everything has a resonance, and every resonance, in fact, is a wave, obviously, and every wave is a rhythm. So everything, in fact, is rhythm, just as it, in a sense, everything is sound. Everything is sound. That's an interesting idea. A bit too deep for this one, but we could discuss that. It's a very very interesting idea, and I love the idea of everything is resonance. Therefore, everything is resonating. Everything is making a sound. Okay, so design, temporal aspects about pulse, feed, the kinds of rhythm we're talking about. But more specifically, what I want to talk about is the idea of polyrhythms. Okay, the idea here is that we are talking about Stravinsky and the notion that meter in the Rite of Spring is measured as a pulse, which is based on a subdivision across common various meter changes. The subdivision here we're talking about, as you can see, is an eighth note. And as you can see, 2/4, 3/16, 2/16, 3/16, 3/16, 2/8, 2/16, 3/16. And if we think about it as eighth notes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So the rhythm that is made up is fundamentally subdivided as an eighth note, but what we actually hear is bam, bam, bop, da bam, bop, da bop, da bam, bop, bam. So that idea that we spoke about in the lecture of things occurring on the main front of the bar makes a particular rhythmic pattern. And that is a conceptual 20th century notion of how to write a rhythm for an orchestral or a group, particularly orchestral, because if you look at the subdivision, what you can do is then extract the idea of the common denominator and reorganize the common denominator so that you hit on what could be seen to be another rhythm that cuts across another grouping of eighth notes. So instead of a 2/4 bar, there you could have, you could have a 3/16 bar, which would be, in other words, in another part, you could have a part that played from, for example, beat this second grouping. at odds. So this second grouping here forms a second line under here that plays this rhythm starting from the 3/16, but it starts here. And this bar here is added onto the end of that. So basically shifting the whole rhythm from rhythmic design of these bars to play simultaneously with this 1 meter behind, but counting, as it were, the quavers. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, etc. So you would get a different juxtaposition of the intention of the original design of the metric rhythmic accents. This is a very interesting setup where you watch up in the corner here, where it enunciates what the beat is and the subdivision, and listen. Yeah, so you get the idea. That's a fantastic little exercise in demonstrating the potency of metric change, establishing a particular rhythmic design. If we look, there's another one there which I've also put up, which is pretty much the same. I won't play that one. So if we look at the idea of rhythm through the lens of all the things we spoke about in the lecture, we're still looking at the idea of evolving patterns and so forth. I put all this stuff up in the lecture. So what I'm suggesting is that when you do the lecture, I will put this in the email actually that I send out to you. When you do the lecture and the tutorial, that you should have a printout of the notes that I've sent you. The notes accompany the video, of course. That's elementary, dear Watson. Okay, what we're looking at here now is a design for two toms, and a cymbal and some temple blocks. Temple block, cymbal, toms. So let's have a look, keeping in mind that one person is playing this, and if they were set up in a particular way so that the temple blocks were in the front, perhaps the cymbal was over the side to the left, perhaps, and the two toms were positioned on the other side. So the way in which it was set up so that when you played, and this is what you must imagine when you are writing such a thing for one player, the way in which that player is capable of playing the three things simultaneously, although three things never happen simultaneously, only ever two things happen simultaneously. Having a listen to this anyhow. Okay, so we can see that particular things, for example, if we look here at the temple blocks, dik, da, ga, da, ga, So we've got the tom happening there, and the tom happening there, and the tom happening there. The symbol at the beginning, the symbol and the... So this symbol happens on its own. Whenever there's something more complicated to play, it's not necessarily, although that there is probably a bit tricky. Bump, 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 ticka, 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 ticka. So yes, but maybe if that were a problem, I'd put a rest there. But I think that, if you want to be on the safe side, I'd put the two go dot, dot, ticka, 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 dot. So anyhow, that's a little look at that. So the idea here is to present a very playable part that also has some interest harmonically. Okay, so that first part there. Now, the way to develop this is to actually sometimes displace the notes so that you can use perhaps one hand playing single notes and the other hand playing doubles, and to keep that going in the sense that popped up there, by the way. So you're filling in the rhythm more rather than, and then you can alter it with. The other idea of this is to drop notes. To drop notes so that you get another subtext going here, or to actually put notes up an octave, so displace, etc. Okay, so that's that. I've got one here in 3. This one in 3 is quite interesting in as much as this is just an arpeggio of a D minor 7 chord, and against it is 5, 4, 3. Have a listen. Very simple. Okay, so what we can do here is this idea of simply doubling something in its scaling the time to half, as we want to do on other occasions. So then you get a variation, for example, as follows. So yes, you could in fact do something to the order of similarly positioning that every second so that it I think that what you'd find is going to work best is if you make the notes half time in the double. Because I think this might be hard to play with this. In fact, I think that'll be very hard to play. Although if it were with 4 mallets, it might be okay. Certainly that's okay. That's okay with 2 mallets. That's why I think this is a 2 mallet thing. If you wanted to do this, it might be better. And then make the other. The idea of half time is more. It's more succinctly represented here in this one, which looks like E minor. Okay, so this here emphasizing that the F sharp to the E and the F sharp to the E, maybe this here F sharp to the E, F sharp to the E. So it's a repeating pattern. Yes. So that's just some ideas around writing for the marimba parts. Okay, so that little bit of exchange there of building up something that comes together. The first part is actually an example of something that's not very good. This here is sort of a bit cluttered, and we could do without that. Give the flute a chance to say what it's going to say. Okay, and here's another example of something that's not very good. So you've given the flute something to say, and then you've brought in a little counterpoint with the clarinet part. But when the flute has its second saying, the continuance in here undermines the end of this. So listen what happens. That there do, that's closure. And if we just leave out this here, we liberate the end of it so that when he or she, whoever's playing the flute, arrives at this note, then the other statement starts. So if we go back to the beginning. Yeah, also what's happening here is that we've got some weird notes happening here. We haven't had any F sharps or G flats, but we have had E flats. So if we put this here, this will change the texture of everything. Now this is a common mistake that I'm seeing in your writing. You're stating something, this is obviously E flat major 7. You don't give enough credence to what it is that you're doing harmonically. And sometimes you make nonsensical statements underneath or with or following something that has already established a key. If you're going to make a statement that's a change, then what you have to do is you have to prepare for that change. So here we've prepared for the change here, but it's still in sort of G minor E and then E flat E, and there's the E flat scale, and here again we're still in, although here we've prepared for a change, but this here could quite easily be A flat instead and be much more, except we're going to go into something else. We're preparing for something else here. So have a listen to this again. Nice little line underneath that resolves. Resolves. Doesn't resolve. Questioning. Okay, so here's the thing. The flute goes ba-da, ba-da-dee, and then dee-da, but, and then picks up on what the clarinet's doing. But, buddy, buddy, bee-ba. Again, it states that F to C. So it's saying, but what about what I just said? So the conversation, the dialogue that happens between two instruments in a duet is very important. What you mustn't do in a duet is make a shambles of the interaction. It's a bit like two people in an argument talking about the same thing simultaneously, but from opposite points of view. And no one's getting anywhere. So, but here we've got questioning going on. Questioning, do more questioning, a little question. Yes, I agree with you, but questioning. Again, questioning, then giving in. Okay, but what about this? But here's the conversation continuing. And then an exchange. And then an agreement. Oh, and then they come together. Okay, so that's really important idea about writing a duet. If you put in the percussion, right, it should actually work. But continuing on, I'm going to write. Okay, this little passage here, I just, as an example of using an arpeggio with a counterpoint. Okay, what follows here now is the use of the flute, which is quite brilliant in its upper register, making a statement and being insistent. So there's a sort of insistent continuance of questioning. So that idea is those ideas are just a few little kind of ways of dealing with what it is that we're talking about. This first section here, however, is very pertinent to a lot of the way in which you're approaching your writing, in terms of the dialogue that exists between two players. Very important to get that right and to make it make sense. Putting it all together, it may not make complete sense because it probably still needs editing, but let's have a listen. Okay, so those are a few examples of the things we spoke about in the lecture. And so that's about does it for the tutorial. I will be emailing you about all this and its details. Stay safe and well. Talk to you soon. All the best. Cheers.